In a world where hustle culture collides with wellness warnings and workplace demands keep evolving, how do we stay sharp without burning out? How do we navigate the endless stream of wellness trends while actually getting results? This is the Work and Wellness Podcast, and I'm your host, Ange Davis. Drawing from my own journey of wins, stumbles, and honest revelations, I'll be bringing you raw, unfiltered conversations with experts and inspiring guests who've been there, lived it, and found a better way. Together, we'll cut through the noise and workshop what it really means to be well in today's workplace. No more choosing between success and sanity. No more sacrificing health for achievement. Whether you're struggling with burnout, searching for purpose, or simply ready to work smarter, not harder, you're in the right place. This is real talk about real solutions for real people. Let's get into it. Hello, friends. Welcome to the show. This week, I am going to be sharing the 10 things that no one tells you about becoming a leader. I did a LinkedIn post on this last week and it really resonated with people. So I thought I would go a little bit more into detail around these 10 things, what my thoughts are, and maybe share a few of my experiences on becoming a leader, because oftentimes, we are promoted to leadership because we are good at our job or it makes sense for the next step in our career. But what often happens is we're not actually trained to become a leader. And so a lot of people struggle when they first go into that role. So I'm going to go through 10 things, my perspective on things that really come up when you become a leader that no one tells you about. The first one is it's a complete career change, not just a promotion. So what often happens is, as I said, you're great at your job and so you get promoted into this next role. But being a leader is entirely different to managing your own workload and your own projects. And I think what a lot of businesses get wrong is they think that if someone is great at their individual contributor role, that they're going to be a great leader. And it's really important to understand that when you become a leader, it's an entirely new career. You now have people that you need to motivate, to influence. You've got to be able to manage up and down, figuring out how to deal with different personalities. You've also got to understand at what point do you do it yourself versus hand off to other people. And it's really interesting when you first become a leader. This is my experience anyway, is I felt like I had to know everything and do everything. And so when you do become a leader, undertaking some sort of training on how to have difficult conversations, how to motivate your team, how to set a team culture is really important, because if you've got the right team culture and the right structures in place, then naturally everyone's going to perform really well. So I think that's actually the first thing that is missed when people become leaders, is that it's a full career change. And in the same way you would need to train for a career change, I think we need to train when we become a leader. The second thing that comes up is that you will often feel like a counselor. This is exactly why I run my workshop called Accidental Counselor for Leaders, because you become the person that your team looks to for guidance, for advice, but we are also whole humans and people bring everything with them to work as individuals, not just their work. And so when you might notice in your team performance could be slipping or someone's acting a little differently, you might have a conversation and then it brings up personal stuff that's going on. And then you feel like you are all of a sudden in counselor mode. And so I always like to encourage people to remember that you don't have to be a psychologist. As a leader, it's not your job to be a psychologist. It's your job to understand and then offer support. So ask what's wrong, listen with empathy and respect, and then be able to refer off to the appropriate measures. It might be the individual psychologist, it might be support through family or friends, or it might be the workplace EAP. But just remembering that it's not your job to solve everyone's personal problem. And sometimes we feel like we've got the right intent and we want to try and solve the problem, but it's not our job to do that. Our job is to ask with curiosity, listen with empathy, and then recognize when to refer off. So just remembering you don't have to solve everyone's personal problems as a leader. The third one, and I think this was one of my biggest lessons when I stepped into leadership, and that is that you will want to do the work yourself because you can do it quicker. But it's really a below the line behavior to step in and want to pick up all the work from your team. It's what I call hero mode. So you swoop in, you save the day, you do the work, but what that does is many things. First of all, it overloads you as a leader. You can't be working on the team and managing up and managing projects if you're in the weeds doing the work. But it also tells your team that you don't have trust in them, that they're able to do it. And it says to them, that's all right. My leader's going to step in next time I'm not able to do something. So it's okay if I don't get it done or I miss a deadline. So it's a little bit of short-term pain in coaching your team to be able to do the work you want them to do for long-term gain, because ultimately, if they upskill, if they're able to do more and they're doing it more quickly, then it frees you up to be able to really work on the business, work on higher order things. So I always encourage leaders, particularly first-time leaders, to remember that coaching someone and allowing someone to do the work, that might take a little bit more time. It might result in more mistakes, but over the long term, it's going to save you time. So short-term pain up front for long-term gain down the track. The fourth one, you won't always be liked as a leader. And this is a trap that I fell into. I really wanted to be liked by my team, particularly when I first became a leader. And that actually resulted in me not having the difficult conversations that I needed to have when I first became a leader, because I felt like if I had difficult conversations, then my team wouldn't like me. But along the way, I had a leader sit down with me and say, you should never aim to be liked. You should always act to be respected. And what I realized is that by having difficult conversations, you actually build respect with your team because they know what's expected of them. They know that you care enough to have the conversation. And it also means that you're not sitting there feeling like, oh, so annoyed that you had to do everything and the team hasn't picked anything up. Then ultimately you act in a way that might be frustrated and it results in you not being liked anyway. So really thinking about, how do I act to be respected rather than to be liked? Because not everyone is going to like you, and you will need to disappoint people from time to time. You'll need to say no from time to time, and you'll need to tell people that they're working on something and they might have put a lot of effort in, that they need to stop and move on to something else. So you're not always going to be liked, but I always think if you can aim to be respected, then that is the ultimate goal of leadership. The fifth one, you will have to make decisions and deliver them to your team, often without all of the information and sometimes without sharing context, particularly if it's sensitive. This is something that I realized over time when I was working with senior leaders, very senior leaders in banking, is that it was their job to make the decisions. It was my job to communicate them in a way that respected their decision and gave the team as much context as I could to help them understand the why and how it fit into the overall strategy. Oftentimes, I wasn't given all the context. Of course, as a leader in a business, you're not always going to be given all of the context around why decisions are made. Sometimes it's because those decisions are sensitive or the context is sensitive. But as a leader, it's our job to figure out how to communicate it to our team in a way that makes sense to them, and so that they can feel like they have enough information to understand why they're doing what they're doing. What I often would see is leaders communicate saying, hi, I don't agree with this decision, but we've got to do it anyway because the boss said so. And it actually erodes confidence in you as a leader. And it also erodes the motivation for the team to want to do the work that they're doing. We may not always agree with decisions that are made as leaders, but we need to find a way to figure out how to communicate it to our team that motivates them and that shows them that there might be some things that we would have done differently, but ultimately we are on board with the direction and we're moving forward. The sixth one, leadership is the ultimate selfless act. And something I still see in some leaders is the desire to take the credit, take the attention, own all of the good and pass on all of the bad. And what I mean by that is, as a leader, I actually think it's our job not to take the credit for anything our team does, but give that credit to the team. Because when your team's successful, you naturally get the positive flow-on effects from that. But as a leader, we are ultimately accountable for the team. And so if something goes wrong, it's our job to own that. And so it might not feel fair, it might feel frustrating at times, but I truly believe it's the ultimate selfless act. Our job is to give our team the credit where they've done something really well, but our job is also to take the fall or to take the ultimate accountability if something goes wrong, because with our team, the buck stops with us. Number 7. This is a good one. There are a lot of times when it's really, really fun leading a team. I have absolutely adored the teams that I have led in my career. And something that was always really important to me was to incorporate elements of fun into our team and our leadership, because it's really easy in a corporate environment to get caught up in the seriousness of the work that you're doing and just forget to have a little bit of perspective and fun. And the reality is when the team's having more fun, they're actually more productive and engaged anyway. So you get better outcomes. And so some of my favorite memories have been the fun things that I've done with my team. Some of them might have been, activities on purpose, getting out of the office and going and having a team day and doing activities. But also, in one of the teams that I led, we used to run huge national conferences every year for the business that we were supporting. And these conferences were huge endeavors. And some of the most fun we had was actually getting the rooms ready at night, running around barefoot at 3 a.m., finishing everything off, and ordering food there was no Uber Eats back then, but ordering food to the conference venue. So just finding ways to inject fun in every day and not feeling like everything has to be so serious all the time, because it gets better outcomes and we spend so much time at work, we might as well have fun. 8, you will often lay your head on the pillow at night, replaying conversations and thinking about how you could have done things differently. And I think this is really important. There are times where I have absolutely gone to sleep and thought, I should have done that differently. But what's really important as a leader is to give yourself grace. You are human. And to write down your reflections. And when we know better, we do better. Sometimes in the moment, there are reasons why we couldn't act in the way that we wanted to act. And what's really important is that you don't continue to repeat that behavior once we've clocked it. And this really nicely leads into number 9, which is you don't have to be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes. But what's really important is the repair. So say you lay your head on your pillow at night and you think, gosh, I really didn't have that conversation in the way that I would have liked to. The repair is important. Catch up with that person the next day and say, hey, I was thinking about yesterday's conversation a lot. I acted in a way that I really wasn't proud of, and this is what I'm going to do instead. And next time I'm going to make sure that I don't respond in that way. So I want to apologize for the way that I acted. This is ultimately the outcome I was looking for. And, we're absolutely all human, but I'm going to do better in the future. And so I think letting yourself have the freedom to try things, be okay that you won't always make the right decision or you won't always act perfectly, but then be honest about it after and repair. If you have a conversation or you act in a way that you're not proud of, let that person know. If you make a decision that wasn't the right decision in the long run, let your team know, hey, I made the call based on the information that I had. I actually don't think it was the right decision in hindsight, but failure's okay. These are the lessons that we learned from it, and here's how we're going to take it forward. So it's always in the repair that I think is the most important, and not necessarily in the action or the mistake, but also learning from that and being able to take it forward and act differently is really important. And finally, I really believe that leadership will be the greatest gift of your career if you want to be a leader. Because one of my favorite things has been seeing the people who've reported to me in the past grow and outgrow me and what they're doing now. And I just feel, in a non-condescending way, so proud to see the way that the people who I've worked with in the past have progressed their careers and grown. And I think that really is one of the true gifts of leadership, to be able to look back and watch those people absolutely flourish and learn and go on to do really incredible things. The other thing I'll say is that if you don't want to be a leader, you don't have to be. I think more and more we're seeing alternate career paths where you can progress through your role or your organization in a technical expert capacity. And so because leadership is such a selfless act and it really does require a lot of effort, a lot of energy, unless you really want to be a leader, maybe take a step back and question if that's what you want to do, because it will be the greatest gift of your life if you do want it. But if you don't, it can be incredibly draining and energetically taxing. And so I think there's a lot that people don't say when you come into leadership. I have absolutely loved my leadership roles, but I think it really is about going in eyes wide open, understanding there's a lot of work that's going to have to go in, that you won't be perfect. None of us are. We're all human. We all carry our human stuff into our jobs. But being okay with not being perfect and just making sure that we repair if we do something that we feel like we're not proud of. I would love to know if there's anything that you would add to that. If you would, type it in the comments, because I'm sure any other leaders listening will have their own reflections on things people don't tell you about leadership. Thanks for listening. Have a great week. Thanks for joining me on Work and Wellness. If today's episode resonated with you, remember, someone in your network might need to hear this too. Share it with a colleague or friend who could use these insights. I'd love to keep the conversation going, so find us on Instagram at Mind Your Grit, where we share daily tips and continue these discussions. And if you found value in today's episode, please take time to rate and review the show. It makes such a huge difference and helps other people discover conversations they might really need. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Each week, we're building a community of people who believe that success and well-being go hand in hand. You can find the notes, resources, and links from today's episode at mindyourgrit.com. This is Work and Wellness with Ange Davis. Your work matters, your wellness matters, and this is where it all comes together. See you next week.